Because now with agents, you are able to orchestrate these processes end to end. And our focus goes back to how can we bring these agents to the core of your business processes, right? There is a lot of experimentation happening around AI and agents around the fringes of the organization.
Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on where you're listening. Welcome to AI and the Future of Work, episode 347. I'm your host, Dan Turchin, CEO of PeopleRain, the AI platform for IT and HR employee service. Our community is growing. We're now well over 1 million listeners. And I get asked all the time, how can you connect with other amazing listeners? And we started a newsletter. We will link to that newsletter in the show notes. Join us there. There are additional fun facts and some clips that don't always make the main episode each week. And it's an opportunity for you to connect with each other. If you like what we do, please tell a friend and give us a like and a rating on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen. If you leave a comment, I just may share it in an upcoming episode, like this one from the listener mailbag, Lauren in Austin, Texas, who runs marketing at a tech startup and listens while commuting, says her favorite episode is the one from last February with Atif Rafiq, award-winning author and former exec at McDonald's and Amazon, who had a great discussion about the decision sprint process to improve team productivity. Great one. Give it a listen. We'll put that link in the show notes. We learn from AI thought leaders weekly. And of course, the added bonus, you get one AI fun fact. Here's today's fun fact. Ashley Kaput writes at CNBC.com about Reddit suing Anthropic for breach of contract. Since the generative AI boom began with the launch of OpenAI's ChatGPT in late 2022, Reddit has been at the forefront of the conversation about plagiarism because its massive trove of data is used to help train large AI models. The lawsuit claims that Anthropic has been training its models on the personal data of Reddit users without obtaining their consent. Reddit alleges that it has been harmed by the unauthorized commercial use of its content. For its part, despite what its marketing material says, Anthropic does not care about Reddit's rules or users. It believes it is entitled to take whatever content it wants and use that content however it desires with impunity. According to the filing, we will share a link to the full article in today's show notes. Now, my commentary, the broader issue here is what constitutes fair use, which, we thought we had fully adjudicated in the courts a decade or so back in the context of web search. Google was heavily involved in these suits. AI has spawned a whole new set of questions and debates about what AI model vendors are allowed to use with and without paying licensing fees. Reddit sells its content indirectly via ads. Reddit users understand their data has value and agree to license it to Reddit in exchange for a free service they choose to use. Content owners should be allowed to decide whether or not AI can be trained on their content. The market should decide the value of that content. Users should be aware of how and when their content is being used. It's essential that as an industry we make faster progress. Content owners have always been allowed to monetize their content. Those same principles must apply to AI. We'll continue discussing this complicated issue in the weeks and months ahead. Now, shifting to this week's conversation. Bhaskar Roy is the Chief of AI Products and Solutions at Unicorn Workato, where he has been nearly 11 years and previously served as CMO, Chief Marketing Officer. We've had amazing guests in the past from Workato, incredible company, incredible culture. Including CEO Vijay Tella and CIO Carter Bussey. Workato is, of course, the workflow automation juggernaut with more than 11,000 customers that was most recently valued at nearly $6 billion. Bhaskar is a serial head of products, having previously spent time at Playphone after co-founding Kik, which was acquired by Skype in 2011 for $150 million, then again by Microsoft for $8.5 billion. He received his Bachelor in Computer Science from the Birla Institute of Technology in Mesra, India. Thanks to great guests and Workato CIO Carter Bussey for some prep for this episode. And gosh, without further ado, Bhaskar, it's my pleasure to welcome you to AI in the Future of Work. Let's get started by having you share a bit more about your background and how you got into the space.
Thanks, Dan. Firstly, great to meet you. And being a part of this episode, thank you for inviting me to this. So, in terms of the background, as you mentioned, I've started as a software developer, building a part of a team that was building operating systems, and then over a period of my career, became a product manager, etc. Now, coming to Workato, the startup that you talked about, Quick, that's where I met Vijay, and previously at Oracle. So I met Vijay, a bunch of founders of Workato were a part of that team. And so as after the Quick acquisition happened, I went and did Playphone. Vijay and team started Workato. But eventually, that those roads will come together, and it was a pleasure to come back to Workato and then start working with the team. Now, how I got into the AI space, it's accidental, to be honest. I was the CMO of Workato, like you mentioned. And then what happened was there were these two individuals in Workato and very different places. One, Robert Fuhara, based in Germany, doing solution consulting. Jasper Madrone, who was a part of our Carter's team doing IT. They had this vision of how agents can help orchestrate all the things that are being done, right, across all applications, etc. And in there, at nights, they would spend time together and they built that first prototype. And when they showed that to me, light bulbs went off, saying that, yes, this is how things will be in future. So since I knew Vijay well, I went to him and said, "Hey, this is what I want to do going forward. Bring my product chops back again because this is exciting." And so that's how Then I started reading up, figuring out various things that were happening, just like everyone is doing around AI, to get myself up to speed on this area. And then that's how I ended up, looking at how I can lead this AI products and solutions here. Long-winded answer, but hopefully it gives you the context.
So, from that light bulb moment a long time ago, the technology's changed, the world has changed, Bhaskar has changed, and Workato has changed. Maybe I'd love to have you take us on a little tour about how the culture of the company has changed.
That's a great question, Dan. If you look at the company culture, initially we were a team. The majority of the team we worked together in the past, whether it be at Oracle, Quick, Skype, any of those areas. And so when the team got together, as you can imagine, culture and communications were easy because we had worked together in the past, right? We knew each other pretty well. Now, the core part of the culture was always innovation. Because when we started with Workato as the integration and automation platform, there were already the likes of TIBCO and MuleSoft and others. So our take was, what can we do in order to change the way integration works and make it more that everyone can do that, right? So that was the core thesis. So innovation, being able to, constantly experiment, figure out what works, was a part of our DNA. The second part of it was we were, and everyone says that, so it sounds cliched, which is customer first. But here at Workato, that is embodied in everyone, right? We don't hesitate for engineers to actually talk to customers. Means anything that happens, what the customer is doing is a core part of it. So, for example, I'm in customer calls maybe 10 to 12 customer calls per week, trying to understand, trying to figure out what's going on. So that has always been a part of our DNA. What changed was as we grew, we had to codify that and put it into company values. And in some way, also our hiring practices, things like that, so that we can bring that in. And I'm so excited today that, our people and everyone here at Workato embodies that. Means that's what energizes me. Wake up in the morning to work with the folks that I really love to work with.
100% consistent with what Vijay said when I asked him a similar question. It's hard to believe that in this day and age, anyone could not be familiar with the work of Workato. But for those uninitiated, pick a customer story, something that you're proud of that describes how customers use Workato.
Yeah. So A little bit of setup before I get to the customer story. So currently, if you look at Workato, there are approximately, I would say, 700 billion tasks getting automated per year. So what that means is if you boil it down, there are 40,000 tasks getting automated every second. And that's a huge impact. We are totally humbled by the kind of things that our customers are doing as a result of that, right? Now, if I were to pick customer stories, there are a number of customers that come in that we call go wall to wall with Workato. So they would start typically automating one particular process, start with maybe integrating some applications, but then over a period of time, it is not just one department. It's not just IT. It's IT, sales, marketing, customer support, HR, finance. All of those processes are getting automated at Workato. Now, my favorite examples, though, where we are creating a big impact are what nonprofits are doing with Workato, right? It may sound very different than creating a business impact, but the impact that they're having on the world is phenomenal. So I'll pick two cases, right? One is there is a company, a nonprofit organization called Majority Trust. They're based out of Singapore, and they're a philanthropic organization. But as you can imagine, they're strapped for resources to do things, and so they all the way from donor, automation. How do you really do that? All the way from developing term sheets for the charities that they support, all the way from the social impact programs that can run, and how much they're getting back to on the finance side. That entire cycle is fully automated with Workato, so that they can do what they do best, which is go and help charities therein. So that's one example. The second one is Arda Group. They're a big manufacturing company, one of the largest manufacturing companies in the world. So we have partnered with them, and we actually went and did a number of technical education, what the world would look like in Africa, in South Africa. So we partner with various companies in order to create not just the business impact, but how can we create social impact? And those are the things, Dan, that resonate with me more. I can talk about customers who do just everything with Workato, but these are the kind of companies that when I look at them, means they just register saying that, wow, we are doing something special here.
Great examples. So I think about, call it three waves of automation. You mentioned MuleSoft, TIBCO, et cetera. Call it kind of 1.0. 2.0, I think you'd probably agree. We called it RPA, robotic process automation, Blue Prism, Automation Anywhere, a whole crop of companies that kind of disrupted 1.0. I consider Workato as part of a crop of kind of automation 3.0 companies, but I don't know. You're the expert. To the extent you agree with that kind of taxonomy, what is a workflow automation 3.0 mean, and like how is Workato built on the legacy of some of those previous kinds of technologies?
Yeah, Mitch, I would agree with that, Dan. That this is around almost think of automation 3.0. And the core thesis of Workato was always about how can we build this in a way, how can we enable people to automate and even integrate various applications, in which is absolutely at the core of their business. So the business processes, which are not at the fringes, right? It is about how do you really make that business transformation and how do we enable that? And a core belief has always been that, in order to make that happen, it is not just one team that does it. So a low code, no code approach where, people across the company, you can democratize this so that people across your company can help build this entire automation and bring that culture into Workato. Now, the way we were set up a little bit different, and I think it's mainly because we came in later than all the other vendors that you talked about. So technology had advanced a lot. AI was starting to come into foray, things like that. And we leveraged those kind of technologies in order to build things. So AI is inherently built into Workato, where we can understand what people are building and then can start recommending as to what they should be doing, making it easier for them to build integrations, right? Or any of these orchestrations which are there. And with the growth in LLM, I would say that, we are getting into almost like 4.0 or maybe even leapfrog into almost like 10.0, because now with agents, you are able to orchestrate these processes end to end. And our focus goes back to how can we bring these agents to the core of your business processes, right? There is a lot of experimentation happening around AI and agents around the fringes of the organization. For us, just like Workato's orchestration capabilities, we are looking at how agents can become a core part of your business so that the key capabilities like order to cash, employee onboarding, offboarding, all of those supply chain, those core things that define your company, how can you build agents in order to, change those kind of or bring transformation to those processes?
So here's where going from call it, automation 3.0 to 4.0, where it's AI first, gets a little bit murky. One of the inherent aspects of automation is that the workflows are deterministic. And so you build, we used to call them bots, right? Bots that do a task and with 100% predictability, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the hallmark of AI is that it's non-deterministic.
Mm-hmm.
So you gave a good example of how like the authoring experience might benefit from AI. So people who might have been intimidated by previous interfaces potentially could build workflows using natural language. But the harder one for me to understand is taking a process like quote to cash or something like that and thinking through where it's okay for that to be non-deterministic with AI. Maybe unpack that for us.
Yeah, that's a great question, Dan. So I think when you look at from a core standpoint, there will be elements of the process which will always be deterministic. Means making something like say quote to cash is so integral to the company. You cannot have all of those things be just say, okay, agents, let me just run loose, go do things, right? It just cannot work that way. So we have this notion in Workato where our agents are provided this capability called enterprise skills. And these skills are very deterministic. So, for example, when you're going to make an update to certain things, or when you're looking to do, say updating your finance system with this particular order, things like that, those are all done through these skills, which are very deterministic in nature. Where AI comes in is the way of for you to just figure out as to how should we orchestrate this in various kind of situations. So the reasoning we are seeing getting better, being able to make decisions through AI is getting better. So AI does all of that, but when it goes to make those changes, those are very deterministic in nature. And so, if you think about this at a high level, there are a few things that make these things work, and we debate this and build this into the platform accordingly. It's more of a balancing act, balancing indeterministic as to what we do with the deterministic, so that things are being done the right way. It's balancing of autonomy versus providing human oversight. And that is a core part of what needs to be done on that, mainly because we are still not at a stage where you can just have agents be autonomous, especially on the core side of things. You need user confirmation. There are approval processes. There are validation rules that needs to be built out. And those things need to have some human oversight therein. So how do we really balance autonomy versus human oversight? And the third part, as you can imagine, is is around transparency of what AI is doing. When it's doing things in the background, how can it start alerting the folks who are as a part of that entire process, making sure that things are happening right. And the final point is security and governance. So, say for example, if we go back to the quote to cash rule, when you're going to make an update to a particular system, the agents should always work on behalf of the user. What I mean by that is it should inherit the permissions that I have rather than a broad based permission. So, how do you really handle those kind of capabilities to enable those things to happen? Are a core part of this particular platform that we have built out.
So the quote to cash example is maybe an extreme where it's pretty mature process and
Yep.
good candidate for automation. Can you give us maybe a parallel example of something where you'd want an AI agent to have a little bit of autonomy, where the automation process would be better because the AI agent has autonomy? What's a sample
Yeah,
process?
yeah. Means a number of our customers use us for uh, a few use cases. One is IT help desk or customer support. There's quite a bit of autonomy that agents can have there. Because as users are typing things, they're entering things, there may be new situations that the AI agent comes across. Then the way it works is very similar. It has the knowledge bases. So that's the part that it looks at for context. And then if it finds that it has missing context, AI agents can autonomously go to the end applications, pull in the necessary information. And once it has that full context, it executes what the user is looking to do. And when it executes, again, goes back to the some skills as to how do you make updates, things like that. But there is quite a bit of autonomy as to how to really help, whether it be internal employees through IT help desk or through customer support, how they can help the customers. Those are things that are, can often, in fact, after a few runs, our customers make them autonomous agents.
So we can't have the conversation about autonomy and agency without also thinking about what could go wrong. Because of that agency that we give that we apply to these workflows with AI. You alluded to the importance of safety and privacy, but we'd love to know at a product level how you think about attaching the right guardrails to some of these AI agents.
Yeah, so there are a few things that we look at. One is this notion of skills is a very key part for us, right? So when we build an agent, we believe that okay, there is the standard things that you can do, but we provided anything that needs to be done in a deterministic manner. We provide agents the skill, and we put guardrails around the agent the skills. What I mean by that is, say for example, in the IT help desk situation, we would say IT agent, you have skill A, B, C, D, and that's all you have. Don't go beyond it. This is what you can do. And so that way we are kind of putting those kind of guardrails. As a result, hallucination goes down. They are limited to what it can do. Obviously, there will be some variance because, there is some autonomy in those areas that we provide. But those kind of skills, when it goes to take certain actions in various systems, those are always deterministic. So this skills approach enables us to put these kind of guardrails in order to see so that the AI, when you're connecting AI or these agents to various systems, it just does not go and start making updates on its own, right? So those kind of the skill enables us to provide those kind of guardrails.
So the agentic behavior obviously is a direct result of large language models.
Mm-hmm.
And oftentimes in like the scenarios you mentioned, employee service, customer service, you want to balance the agency that the AI agent gets from the large language model, the conversational fluency, with those guardrails. How do you think about achieving that balance between giving access to the foundation model to think, reason, act, but without violating those guardrails that bound it from being able to share what it learned from the foundation model?
Yeah, so I think the way it is, we leverage these foundation models a lot, right? So they are provided, they're trained, all of those things come in. The place that we put guardrails is when it goes to update systems, when it goes to take action on those systems. That's what we want. We want these things to have its agency, have its reasoning capability, and they do a very good job nowadays. It's improving so much that we see that the reasoning, the inference capabilities are really good. It's only the guardrails that we provide is okay, you're going to make an update to Salesforce. Guess what? It has to be done in a deterministic manner. Hey, you're going to update the systems or multiple systems. There are guardrails put around it. And those are the skills that we provide so that AI is not going and making those changes based on whatever, it thinks it should do.
Every vendor at this point has kind of a different approach, thought about how to regulate. It's a complicated question,
Yeah.
balancing the agency with the guardrails. And kind of related to my next question, I like where you're going with it. You mentioned you're on 10 to 12 customer calls a week. I think you appreciate you have your ear a lot closer to the ground than most, just because you and I both are actually listening to customers' apprehensions and enthusiasm, et cetera. What would you say Bhaskar hears on a weekly basis about the readiness of enterprises that maybe is different from what we hear in headline news?
That's if I look at the customer calls and the enterprises which are there currently, in most of the cases when we go there, they are doing experiments on the fringes. It's some small things here and there that they're automating, some parts of it. Very few folks, and I would say it's all predominantly experimental. Very few folks are thinking, how can it really transform my business and how can it change things? So the way we go about those are, we call these agentic applications. So we have like IT help desk, customer support, we have a sales assistant, things like that. These are almost like pre-packaged agents on top of Workato platform. And we often guide our customers towards saying that get started with one use case. Let's take one use case, but a core use case that can get ROI and get that rolled out and you seeing success within a month. Because then you start figuring out, going from rather than experiments, you start figuring out, okay, this is really changing the way my company operates, or this is really creating an impact. So that's how we guide our customers to essentially looking at AI, not at just big thing, because you can constantly analyze, come up with this big thing, but look at, how can you really come down to a or a few use cases, get those live, get going with it, understand this, and continuously build on that, and have the confidence that we can actually do this.
One of the things I find is that depending on who you're talking to in the organization, you get a very different level of apprehension and a different level of enthusiasm. And it tends to be the case that the more senior you're at in an organization, the more they appreciate the benefits and they're willing to experiment. But oftentimes, those who are doing the job that is a candidate for automation are more apprehensive. How do you balance those conversations when you know that some of the work that is being automated could impact the org chart, maybe for the better, maybe for, there's just some confusion around the future of the org as you insert more of these agentic workflows. How do you navigate those conversations with team members?
That is a tough conversation, Dan. But the way at least I see it is going forward. If you are using AI to do your work, a part of your work, you're just more productive. You have a lot more time on your hand to do other value added things. You can lot more time to create impact for your business rather than doing the way you're doing currently, all the manual tasks, etc. So I think everyone in every company will have to reorient themselves, every employee, saying that how can I leverage AI to do my work a lot better? And that will free up me to do better things, right? Overall. Means I personally have always believed and that if I'm able to work myself out of this particular job, I'll do better things. I'll be given the chance to do other things as well and help grow my career. And I think that becomes a reality now, in the sense, if I am able to use AI agents, delegate stuff to AI agents to do a bunch of my work, I can do a lot more. I can grow more in my career. So I think that kind of reorientation of thinking has to seep in, because folks who are not using AI, I'm sorry to say, will be left behind, right? Compared to the folks who are using AI on their day-to-day work in order to become more productive.
For you and I in the cradle of Silicon Valley, I think it's easy to be an AI optimist. And when you and I say, it's an opportunity to reorient your career, reinvent yourself, reimagine what your passion is, we mean it. And I think we have some patterns in mind of what that actually looks like. Unpack it when you're talking to the employees in a manufacturing facility or something like that, and you're encouraging them to let AI reorient their career. How does that land? And then what's the version of that conversation that you have with that manufacturing employee that might be who might not be as receptive to the technology as you and I?
There are means I've as you may have also seen, right, Dan, there are two folks. People who are optimistic and they really think that this is going to help. And then there are people who are fearful that that their job may go away. So those conversations of people who are fearful, you just have to, just like any manager, you just have to walk them through as to how this is going to actually improve their career and help them. There is no easy solution here. And it is for, just like, say, for example, you as a manager of folks, me as managing a team, you have to walk them through how this is going to change your career. What does that career framework look like? And how they can use AI in order to advance themselves are those conversations that the managers should be having with all of their employees in order to move that forward, in order to remove the fear. I think it is grounded, the fear is grounded, but I think the optimism is a lot more because I truly believe that people who embrace AI to do things they are going to do so much more for the company. They are going to do so better in their career. Um, but it is those one-on-one conversations that the managers need to have with all their employees and make sure that they understand that this is how to go about it. And also, not just the conversation, provide them with training tools, how they can upskill themselves, how they can train themselves, how they can figure out how they can leverage AI and agents in order to do their job a lot better and what that means. So all of that needs to be put in place.
So let's say Bhaskar and Dan are back here and it's 2035 instead of 2025. We're having a version of this conversation about the future of work, only it's 2035. What has changed most since 2025 that we'll look back on and say, this we anticipated, but maybe this is the thing that nobody could have anticipated?
I think what means the things are moving so fast, so it's hard to imagine what the next decade or 10 years from now, what that would look like. But what this is my wish list, right? Or the topmost in my wish. I would love for a time when all our conversations, including this, is almost being done in person, even though virtually. What I mean by that is think of lightweight AR glasses. We all put that together, and then we are in a room almost like we are having a natural conversation rather than the way we are doing it over Zoom. And then we have whiteboards and other tools available. We can do things together. It almost feels like you're talking to the person in person, even though if you're virtually or separated by distance. I would really love to see something like that because then those conversations, we all know that when we talk to people in person, things are so different, right? You're able to riff a lot. You're able to do so many things together. I would love to have that situation 10 years from now.
I share a similar vision. I think that the role of AI is to break down the barriers that make people fear the other. I mean, throughout history, this goes back millennia. What makes you different, becomes a source of fear for me, and it shouldn't. And I think we can use just the transcendent capabilities of this technology to really experience what it's like, to be part of another culture, another race, speak another language, be present, physically present, even when we're not, physically present in traditional sense. So I really hope that you and I are back here in a decade and we're celebrating that that's how AI has been used.
Yeah, that'll be awesome. A decade from now, maybe we are doing this podcast
I
in
hope so.
almost like a realistic environment, even though we are separated by distance.
All right, put it on your calendar.
All right.
2035, you're invited back, all right?
Okay.
Hey, we're about out of time, but I've got to get one last important question in before I can let you off the hot seat. And this is one I had asked mutual friend Carter for a little bit of prep, and he said you got to ask this question to Bhaskar, and you can't tell him in advance that I teed it up. So here I'm sharing in the podcast that he teed it up. How did your career as a professional singer influence your career in tech?
My gosh. Oh my God. It was not professional singing,
Okay.
but that was my path initially when I was in middle school, high school, to become a professional singer. But it was one of those things. It's a and I used to do performances all the time. I used to go on road shows, do all of that stuff, and I was love doing that. That's what I thought that I would do. And then computers, etc. I'll age myself by saying this. All of those things were coming, and I just fell in love with that. And since then, it has been just that building software and looking at products, etc., uh, rather than going down the path of being a musician. Plus, I also realized that that's a hard path. It will take me a lot of time before I can actually, start making money or doing something around it. This was a much better path, and it followed what I was liking at that time.
I have a hard time picturing you with hair down to your waist and and some headbanging guitar riffs. What was your genre?
It was mainly classical, Indian classical. So you wouldn't have seen me hair down, not that kind of thing.
Do you play a sitar?
No, I used to sing. So I was a vocalist.
Amazing. Out of an abundance of respect, and because we're now friends, I'm not going to ask you to sing a few bars, but maybe with the benefit of advance notice next time. Maybe when you're back, hopefully before 2035, I'll ask you to perform for us.
Wow,
excellent.
I have to get to Carter now.
That's right. Exactly. Got to get him back.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Bhaskar, this one's been great. Where can the audience learn more about you and the great work that your team's doing?
I think LinkedIn is the best place. So yeah, search me up on LinkedIn.
Good. Come back frequently. I cannot promise that I'll do a duet with you, but I'll be happy to listen to you sing. That's for the benefit of the audience. Brilliant. Well, that's all the time we have for this week on AI and the future of work. As always, I'm your host, Dan Turchin from People Rain. And of course, we're back next week with another fascinating guest.